I think that, Joanne is reading her syllabus and filling that thing out more than anybody in the class. She's really in depth. We also have a textbook called The Bible in 8 Ages by L.D. Foreman, where we're going deeper than that. What period of time are we in here?
Long.
All right, right here. All right. All right. Right, and we're studying. Now, did God plan for Israel to have a king?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, yes, him, himself.
Yeah. He always planned for them to have a king. But they wanted one before he was ready. Remember that?
Yes.
All right, we're going to see a little bit about today. In Genesis, Jacob had prophesied that there would be, out of Judah would be a lawgiver, and that the scepter would not depart from him until Shiloh comes. So we were going to have a king. And the king was going to be David, and the king, David, through his loins or through his generations, would be the Messiah king. All right? We have Matthew and we have Luke in the New Testament. Matthew is the kingly reign where Israel was going to have the king, the Messiah king, was going to come through that. And by the way, Matthew is Joseph's lineage, and Luke, the 3rd chapter, is whose lineage?
Mary.
Mary's lineage. All right. Mary didn't have any brothers, evidently, and under the Levirate marriage in the Old Testament, if a man did not have a boy, a child, an heir, he would give it to his oldest daughter. When she would marry, he would adopt the son to be the heir. So Mary's father adopted Joseph to be the heir. So we have the lineage from the kingly line, which is Joseph's line, and also through Mary's line, which is our kinsman redeemer. That's why the book of Ruth was written. All right? The kinsman redeemer and the Old Testament. So there are some things tied together there. Okay? Now, we're studying about David's life. David was supposed to be the king. Israel wanted a king prematurely, and they asked for a king, and God gave them a king, and what was his name?
Saul.
Saul. What does his name mean?
Ask for it.
Ask for. Ask for. Just like the name Sheol. Have you heard of the word Sheol? That's the place asked about. By the way, you can dig a quiver, but you cannot dig a Sheol. Quiver is a grave. A lot of the Seventh-day Adventists, your Jehovah's Witness and everything, try to say that when you die, that your body goes to sleep, and grave and Sheol are the same word, but they are not. You can dig a grave, but you cannot dig a Sheol. Sheol is the place of departed spirits. When you die, you go be with the Lord. You either go be with the Lord, or you go into the place of departed spirits where Hades is today. All right? And the word Hades and Sheol in the Bible are basically equivalents. Hades and Sheol. All right? Something like this. And Sheol.
Wasn't Hades the word translated from Sheol in the Septuagint?
Yes. Hades, where I'm going.
All right.
Hades is the Greek equivalent to Sheol. All right? And it was a place of departed spirits at one time. Place of departed spirits. That's what it means. The place in Hades, it means the place unseen. Nobody ever saw it and went back. And Sheol means the place asked about. And of course, Saul means the one asked for, from that same Hebrew root. Okay, now let's go. We got a little background here. We're here in this period of time where the kings are. Right after, this is the king that God wanted Israel to have. And we're going to quickly go through this chapter here. David's triumphs. And now after this it came about that David defeated the Philistines and subdued them, and David took control of the chief city from the hand of the Philistines, and defeated Moab and measured with a line, and marking them down on the ground, and this is where he took them and ran over them, basically. And we go on a little bit further. It says that David hamstrung the soldiers and the chariot horses and reserved enough of them for 100 chariots. He goes on down, verse number 9. Now Toi, the king of Hamath, heard that David had defeated all the army of Hadadezer, and Toi joined Joram, his son, to King David to greet him and bless him, because he had fought against Hadadezer and defeated him, for Hadadezer had been at war with Toi. And Joram brought with him articles of silver and gold and bronze. And verse number 11 now, David had dedicated these to the Lord with the silver and gold that he had dedicated from all the nations which he had subdued. All right. Now we find that David is gathering up material because God has told him that he's going to allow him to build the temple. Here's the tabernacle now. The tabernacle is basically a tent. And all of this represents Jesus, and it also represents the church in the church age. But David now, he has an idea that he's going to build a temple. So God gives him the dimensions of the temple and everything. That's all inspired also. Now, the tabernacle, all of this represents Jesus Christ. But it also represents the church in the church age. Now, the tabernacle represented that period of time, but the temple represents the glorious New Jerusalem. It represents New Jerusalem. It represents the eternal abode of God's people with Him. All right? The tabernacle is it's a transitory thing. They moved it from place to place. But the temple was going to be built where? In Jerusalem, which means the city of peace. And New Jerusalem, that great city, 4 squares, what it's called. How big is that city? That talks about in the Bible. Jesus said, I go away, I'm going to build a habitation for you of many dwelling places. Apartments, in other words, in this great city. How big is that city, remember? 1,500 miles, basically, by 1,500 miles.
And then 1,500 miles.
1,500 miles wide, square, and deep. That's a big city. And it's got foundations. Abraham, when God called him out of the Ur of the Chaldees, he told him that he was going to make his name great, that he would have children like the sands of the sea, that's the physical seed, and like the stars of heaven, spiritual seed. Okay? And Abraham always lived in tents. He moved his tent pegs from place to place. He didn't have a house. All right? Now, the Ur of the Chaldees was the most advanced area at that time, basically. They had great libraries and great buildings and everything, and Abraham left all that to live in tents. And as you saw when you came in, you saw this video. It's called Grass. That's the way Abraham moved. That's the way his people lived in those tents, like that, for all the times. And basically, Jacob did the same thing. Isaac did the same thing, living in tents. But they looked for a city whose builder and designer and foundation layer was God. That's the city that's talking about. They lived in tents. But the city we're going to live in one of these days, the city was designed by God and is designed by God. And that's the temple that we're going to study about sooner or later. All right? Verse 11, and David had dedicated to the Lord all the silver and gold dedicated from all the nations he had subdued, and Aram and Mobad and the sons of Ammon and the Philistines and Amalek, and from the spoil of Hadadezer and Rohab the king of Zobah. And David made a name for himself when he returned from killing 18,000 Arameans in the valley of Salt. Now, God is with him in all the battles that he's fought, basically. Okay? The Lord helped David wherever he went. What's the word Lord there? What's the word Lord there? That's Jehovah. Jehovah. All right? Jehovah is a beautiful word. All of this is reaching forward and telling us about the Messiah and God's grace. Everything we see here, Jehovah. What does Jehovah mean?
He who shall become.
He who shall become. Isn't that wonderful? In the New Testament, what verse fulfills the Jehovah title? John 1:14. Kaho logo sarx again, and the word flesh he became. Simple as that. All of this tabernacle right here was telling about Jesus was going to come. All right? The boards around that, the Ark of the Covenant, everything, the candlestick, the table of showbread, the altar, the brazen altar, the laver there, all of this represented something about Jesus' life or about him. Wood, anything that was made out of wood in there, what does wood represent in the Bible?
Humanity.
Humanity. What does gold represent?
Deity.
Deity. So all the boards and everything in there are made wood inside, all right, but they're covered by what? Gold. So we have a marriage. We have something there that is deity and flesh. And last week when I taught the book of Galatians, in Galatians 4, it said, in the fullness of time, God sent forth his Son, made of woman, made under the law, that he might redeem them that were under the law. All right? God redeemed us. He became one of us. He walked the mount round like us. In the Old Testament, Jesus was walking with Adam in the garden. In his pre-incarnate self, he looked like Jesus would look when he walked this earth, but it was before he became flesh. Pre-incarnate means before the act of becoming flesh. That's what it literally means. Okay? In the Old Testament, we see God revealing himself to Abraham. When Jesus was being interrogated by the Pharisees and the scribes and the Sadducees and all of them, they asked him, what about Abraham? He said, before Abraham was, I am. Before Abraham became, I am. I kept on being. All right, that's what he told them. And they got real mad at him. They wanted to stone him. Because what he was doing is quoting Exodus 3:14. When Moses asked God, Jehovah, what shall I call you? Who shall I say? And he said, say that I am, that I am. All right, so Jesus said, I am. I am the eternal one. And they got mad. They said, you're saying you're God. Before Abraham I was. I am. And then he said, you're less than 50 years old and you say that you've seen Abraham? He said, Abraham delighted to see me. The Jehovah Jireh, the title Jehovah Jireh means what?
All seen, God all seen.
Jehovah, he who shall become, was seen. That's what the name means. Jehovah was seen. On Mount Moriah, up there, somewhere up here, where Isaac offered, or Abraham offered Isaac, somewhere up there, Jehovah appeared to him. And it says Jehovah Jireh, the Lord was seen, is what it literally means. Jireh. The Lord was seen. And also the Lord provided, because the word really means to see or to see to it. So on that mountain, the Lord, Jehovah was seen, appeared to Abraham. That's just exactly like Jesus was telling the Pharisees at that time. Not only did he see him, but he provided the lamb for the sacrifice. Okay? Now go on a little further. In verse 15 it says, and David reigned over all Israel, and David administered justice and righteousness for all of his people. Now that's quite a statement right there. Do you realize that? The king was also the judge. Okay? The king was the judge. And let's look at that. So David reigned over all of Israel. Remember now, he reigned over Judah and Israel now. Okay? Saul's descendants had been put aside. He administered justice. By the way, we live in the administration of the church age. We live in an administration of the church age. Noah lived in this administration right here. All right? Right here. This is the administration, what we call the Noahic age. And Noah was the representative of God at that time. He was supposed to tell everybody, and by the way, he set down a law. What we call the law of God for human government. If you go back over here and look at this, we have human government. This is Noahic age. Responsibility was to scatter and multiply. Did they? No. What did they do? They built the Tower of Babel in the great city of Babylon. All right? And God, what did they do? They didn't scatter. And what was the judgment? God divided the earth. In the days of Peleg, God divided the earth. You want to know how the continents became? That's when they became. Right there. That's when God divided the earth. If you look at a globe and you study the different cultures and the races of people, you're going to find out they came from those places. In Africa, in North Africa, what do you have up there? What kind of great monuments?
Pyramids.
Pyramids. And great big pyramids and everything. If you go down in Central America and South America, what do you find?
Mayan pyramids.
Pyramids. Same kind of people.
They said that was,
Basically, the people looked alike also. All right, the genetic structure. We, in this period of time, this is when the three races of mankind there, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. All right, Shem means what? Shem.
Substitute? No.
No, Shem. Seth is what you're thinking about. Shem. Shem means name. Through the Shemites, God would make his name known. Oh, we have the Japhethites. Well, who are the Japhethites, by the way?
So was it spread out?
Yeah, the Japhethites.
No, it's
all right, those are the Germans and some of the Greeks and Northern Europeans, all during that period of time. And then who are the Hamites?
Middle East.
What?
Middle East.
Well, some of the Middle East, North Africa, Africa, Ethiopia, all through there, and even in South America in that period, time, and some of the Oriental people, okay, and Native Americans. Let's go on to the chapter 9 now. Chapter 9. It says up there in 16:17 that Joab was the son of Zeruiah, was over the army, and Jehoshaphat, the son of Ahilud, was the recorder, and Zadok, the son of Ahitub, Amalek, the son of Abiathar, were priests. All right, and Zariah was secretary. Then it goes down, David's kindness to Mephibosheth. All right, who is Mephibosheth? Who is
The
that guy?
son of Jonathan.
He's what?
Jonathan's son.
Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth. Now what
Grandson
does
of Saul.
what?
The grandson
The
of
grandson
Saul.
of Saul. Now, usually when a king took over, and if he conquered a country, what would they do to all the descendants of the king? What would they do? All over the world. Huh?
They rise up, kill them.
They killed them all.
What
Wipe them out. Get rid of them. No more trouble from there on. No more trouble. Get rid of them. The problem's over with. But David had made a covenant with Jonathan, and he told him that, he said, don't cut my seed off, be kind to me, and let some of my children live, or whatever, And David remembered that covenant, and now we're going to see him, and it's a covenant, by the way, by grace. By grace. You can see a lot of things about David that he did. He did some things that were very kind. He did some vicious things, but he did a lot of very kind things. He reminds me of my great-grandfather, Sam Paul. Sam Paul was very gracious. Sometimes he was very violent. Brett.
What's grace mean in Hebrew? Or African mean?
Grace means a gift. It means mercy, Elios. It means unmerited favor. There's nothing that this little boy, and we're going to look at this. This is beautiful. I mean, you can preach a lot of sermons from this little chapter right here. And 9 and verse number 1, brother. 9 and 1. You want to read that for
Verse
me?
1 from New
9
King
verse
James.
1.
Now David said, "Is there still anyone who is left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake?"
For Jonathan's sake, that I may show him grace, kindness for Jonathan's sake. Number 2, Steve, do you want to read that for me? You want to read number 2? 9 and verse 2? Yeah, 9 and verse 2.
And there was a servant of the house of Saul whose name was Ziba. So when they called him to David, the king said to him, "Are you Ziba?" He said, "At your service."
All right. I am your service. I am at your service, Ziba. What does the way Ziba mean? Anybody know what that name means? That name means farmer or plantation owner. Ziba. Okay. All right. Number 3 now, Brother Bill. 9 and 3.
Again the king said, "Is there not still someone of the house of Saul, to whom I may show the kindness of God?" And Ziba said to the king, there is still a son, Jonathan, who is lame in his feet.
All right, now this boy is crippled or lame in both of his feet. All right? By the way, what does a Mephibosheth mean? We're going to find a little bit about Saul. What does Mephibosheth mean? I think that Saul was a idol worshiper. Did you know that? Now he's of the tribe. Saul's of the tribe of Benjamin. All right. By the way, he's of the same tribe that the Apostle Paul is from in the New Testament. All right. What does his name mean, Mephibosheth? Oracle of Baal. Oracle of Baal.
That's his name?
That's what I mean. Oracle of Baal. Or prophecy of Baal.
That's bad.
All right. All right. That's utterance of Baal. Now, you see this. You know, we already saw one other boy over there and what his name meant. Same thing. Right out of heathenism. Okay. Now, either his mother was a heathen or something was going on when they called him the utterance or oracle of Baal. All right.
Where are you reading that?
And
Where are you reading that?
2 Samuel 9 and verse 4, Brother Rex. Are you there? 2 Samuel 9 and 4.
See that name you're saying. I don't know.
Okay. 9 and 4. Can you read that for me, brother?
So the king said to him, where is he? And Ziba said to the king, behold, he is in the house of Nashar, the son of Amamiel, in Lodibar.
Okay. The son of Machir. Okay, Brother Bill, I told you that one of these guys' name was Salesman. That's him.
That's him?
Machir. Salesman. All right. The son of Amiel in Lobar. Lobar means no pasture. Lobar. All right. No pasture. Nothing standing up. The word devar, by the way, in Hebrew, it means a lot of things. Devar. Okay? I don't know what happened to my black. It's like this. Devar. Devar. Now that word, and the word in Greek, the equivalent is right there. Okay? And this is word. Let's look at this. Let's look at this. Lo devar. Now devar means a lot of things. Devar means word. Okay? It does mean word. Okay? That's basically what it is. It can mean contract. A lot of words. It can mean fences. A fence. It can mean a forest. A lot of things standing up in order. Or it can mean grass. Because what does grass do? It stands up. It's little heads of grass. You're out there on the lawn. You look out there at a green lawn out there, and it's a lot of little shafts of grass standing up. All right? All right, we'll see. Maybe. It's got a sharper point to it. Thank you.
What word is this again, Jim?
The bar.
Lavar?
The bar. This word right here. The bar.
Would it mean attention?
Huh?
Would it mean anything like
Is it
attention?
nut bar?
It'll mean an oracle sometimes. Whatever. The bar.
Oh, love the bar?
The bar. All right. That's it. The bar. Okay. Let's look at that word. Lo the bar. Now, in the New Testament, we have a very important place here. When they would come to the name Jehovah in the Old Testament, they would call it Ha, the bar, okay? Or they would call it Ha, Shem, that means the name, okay? The word or the name. So when John wrote John 1 and 1 in the New Testament, okay, he said, in beginning, by the way, in RK is what he said there, in RK. In RK, in beginning. By the way, that's locative singular, feminine, and locative singular and feminine. In Hebrew, the first verse in the book of Genesis, it says, Barashith bara. In one of the beginnings created bara Elohim, the heavens and the earth. It's plural. Barashith is plural. But here, it's singular. Now, this period, John 1 and 1, goes back further in time than any other verse in the Bible. Because way back yonder, according to this here chart, way back in here in eternity past, when absolutely nothing existed except for God, singularly, only God. In beginning, NRK, and then it has this word here, Ain. All right? Ain is third person singular and perfect indicative active. Now I know that's a big bunch of words, all right. But what it means to continually keep on being. So it says, in beginning, singularly, before anything ever was, kept on being, whole, logos. Kept on being the Word. Now John is using a Hebraism, not a Greek idea. Ha-dabar is what? The Word. When they came to the name of God, after that God gave the law of Moses, they would never speak the name of God again, which is Jehovah, as we say it today. I don't know how to say it. Hebrew is pointed. And they did not point any Hebrew when the name Jehovah, this word right here, we don't know how to say that at all. It starts out with a yod and a hey and a vowel or vowel and a hey, and if you tried to pronounce it, it would be something like this. Yo. Which is what? This say it together with me. Say, yo. You're going to have to take all your breath. Yo. And breath is what? Is life. Here's a life giver. Here's a creator. Okay? This, yo. And King James said Jehovah. They pronounced it like Jehovah, so we know who it's talking about, but they didn't pronounce his name. When they came to him, if a Jew is to read the Tanakh, the Hebrew Bible, today, when he comes to the name Jehovah, what will he say? He'll say Hashem, the name, Haduar, or Adonai. Adonai means Lord of Lords. Okay? Most of the rabbis will come to the name, when it comes to the name Jehovah, and they say Adonai. Okay? Because they're not going to say that name. They don't know how to say that name. When we say that name, we're fooling ourselves. It's unpronounceable. But this is the name of God. So in John 1:1 it says, NRK kept on being the Word. And what a translation of that is, in beginning kept on being the Jehovah, and Jehovah kept on being an inseparable part of the Godhead. Kai, ho logos, ein proson theon. All right? Because he kept on being God. Did Jesus cease being God when he was born on this earth? No. He was God-man. Just like that tabernacle said, he was man, wood, represent, but covered by deity. He was deity also. All right? He didn't become the Son of God at his baptism either, did he?
Wasn't there silver on those two for redemption or something?
Silver for redemption. Yeah, silver represents redemption. Bronze or brass represents what? Judgment. Judgment. Okay? All of the metals in the Bible mean something. Okay? Everything. All right, so now we have Mephibosheth. We got the lo debar means what? No pasture. All right? Maker, the farmer, son of Ammon, in lo debar, no pasture. All right? And then verse number 5. Sister Andino, you want to read that one for me?
It's number 6, we read already 5.
Oh, we did? Oh, yes, we did. 6.
Now when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, had come to David, he fell on his face and prostrated himself. Then David said, Mephibosheth? And he answered, Here is your servant.
All right. And he said, here I am. Don't be afraid. You know, here I am. Number 7 now. Number 7. Stacy? Are you there? You found it yet? No? Okay. 2 Samuel chapter 9 and verse number 7. Brent, are you over there, Brent?
No, I left my
Oh,
Bible.
all right.
Sorry, no.
Jessica.
I know.
Sunshine, are you there?
Yeah. Don't be afraid,
Yeah.
David said to him, for I will surely show you your kindness for the sake of your father Jonathan. I will restore to you all the land that belonged to your grandfather Saul, and you will always eat at my table.
All right, you'll always eat at my table regularly, and I will give you all the land that belonged to your son, to your father Saul. All right, now you have to go back when you understand what's going on here. Was David giving him anything that wasn't his?
Yeah.
Huh?
Well, in a way, I think so.
No.
David was David.
Well, he was hiding. He was hiding out because he was under judgment. It's kind of like the lost man today. We're out there wandering around in the world, hiding out from God, we think, under the judgment of God. But when we call upon the Lord for grace, mercy, then we're his sons. Okay? But now, Saul was of what tribe?
Benjamin.
Benjamin. Now later on, we're going to see a real bad guy in Israel. His name was Ahab. Remember old Ahab? Ahab wants Naboth's vineyard.
Jezebel's husband.
Huh? He wants his vineyard because it's a real nice vineyard. Now, can Naboth sell his vineyard? He can't sell his vineyard. That's his family's land. It's not his to sell.
Okay.
Now, Benjamin, the land, Benjamin is his tribe. Now, Mephibosheth had a certain amount of that land that was his. That was going to be his and would be his descendants' land. You could not sell the land. It's God's land. You can't sell it. You pass it on from one generation to the next, and it's always your land.
Did that have anything to do with the Jubilee and the 50 years return if you sold it?
Well, yeah, it always goes back. If they got in bad shape, if after the 50th year, the year of Jubilee went back, you couldn't make a slave out of a Jew. That wasn't supposed to be. He was a free man because God had set them free out of slavery, out of Egypt. All right, when they went into the land. And almost all the whole law of Moses, if you could really look at it, is trying to keep the rich from getting richer and the poor from getting poorer. The rich are taxed heavy to keep them down. About 30-40% taxes. Go back there. You go find that out. That's exactly the whole story of the Old Testament, is to keep people in line. Because you always have people that are curtain climbers, don't you? That want to succeed. All right? They're going to get rich, and they're going to work hard, and usually get a bunch of slaves working underneath them. But what they did was it was a society leveler. That's what the law was. It just kept, if you sold yourself into slavery, basically after 7 years you could be free anyway because you couldn't permanently be sold. Something happens, you got sick, you couldn't support your land, and the next guy over there, he's rich, and you sell your land to him, and that's basically the whole story of mankind. And Roy Rogers, Gene Autry, what was the other guy wearing the black hat?
Hopalong Cassidy.
Hopalong Cassidy. All of them doing what? Jesse James,
The Red Rider.
Red Rider. All of them are doing what?
Robin Trains?
They're some of them are robbing drains, all right. But what are they doing? They're trying to protect the little guy that the rich guy comes in and devastates, all right. And that's what the whole book, the whole law is about. It's trying to keep society level, keep people from taking advantage of other people. That's what the whole story is about. Okay. So now what he's going to do, he's going to put him back into the land that's his. It's not David's land. Where's his land? Where's David's family? What is his land?
Bethlehem.
Where was David born?
Bethlehem.
Bethlehem, the house of bread. All right.
You know, the Roman Catholic Church recently added one of the new cardinal sins is excessive accumulation of wealth, which would almost go parallel to what you were saying about there's that ceiling that God...
There was a ceiling there. God made that ceiling. You know, he was anti-capitalism if you look at it in some ways. I'm not propagating communism or anything, or anything like that, or socialism even. But that's what God... Mankind is prone to do that, isn't he?
Yes.
Is he or not?
Yes.
Always. So God leveled it. That's what that's what the whole law is about. Trying to keep those people in line. So David, by grace now, he could have killed Mephibosheth and wiped out that line, but he was a son of Benjamin.
His best.
All right, so he puts him back into his land, so he's going to take, and he's going to get somebody to farm his land for him. Because Mephibosheth is what?
Lazy.
He's crippled. He's crippled. He can't farm his own land.
Brother Phillips.
Number one.
And besides that, Jonathan was David's best
That's
friend.
David's best friend, and this is a covenant that he had made with him. All right? Number 8. Are you over there yet? 9 and verse, 2 Samuel 9 and 8. Are you there yet, Stacy? 9 and 8.
Yeah, the house that murdered.
Okay, again, he prostrated himself and said, "What is your servant? You should regard a dead dog like me." He felt he was Mephibosheth. Mephibosheth. Oracle of Baal. Mephibosheth. Oracle of Baal. All right. And he prostrated himself and said, "What is your servant that you should regard a dead dog like me?" He would have starved to death. He was a beggar, so to speak. He was a beggar in society. America has got a lot of beggars in it today. Did you know that? We never had beggars before. Hardly ever in America's society did we have beggars, but we got them all over the place. Well, he was a beggar. Now, he was a poor beggar because he couldn't even walk. Somebody had to carry him. And if you go over in the Middle East, you're going to find beggars. That's what their job is. When I was visiting over there in 75 and 76, I was on an archaeological tour with my college. And we went over there, we went into one city, and our leader of our archaeological tour, he says, "Do not give these people any money. They are professional beggars. Those children out there, their fathers and mothers have put their eyes out and blinded them. They have broken their arms because they had their arms bent around backwards and everything else. They said they had done this to them and made beggars out of them, and they sent them out there wanting money. So don't do it." He said, if you give them money, what you're going to do is propagate this type of thing. Well, now, Mephibosheth would have been a beggar. But by grace, God is going to make him, put him right back in his land.
Also, today's society, you know, we have the homeless, disabled veterans on the corners with the signs. I'm a homeless, disabled veteran, so I'm what a homeless, disabled veteran should look like.
Yeah.
These guys are scammers trying to get drug money.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's basically it.
So,
But over in the Middle East, they have real beggars. But that is a society. Most of the stuff you have out here is a bunch of baloney. All druggers and whatever. Number 9. All right? Number 9. Are you there, Ron? 9. Verse number-
9:9.
9 and 9.
You got it. And the king called to Ziba, Saul's servant, and said to him, I have given to your master's son all that belonged to Saul and to all his house.
All right, to all, this is Saul's grandson, and also this is Jonathan's son. All right? And you and your sons and your servant shall cultivate the land for him. Here, this guy's name was what?
Ziba?
He was farmer.
Okay, farmer.
Plantation owner, farmer. All right? And you shall cultivate the land for him, and you shall bring the produce, so that your master's grandson may have food. Nevertheless, Mephibosheth, your master's grandson, shall eat at my table every day. And Ziba had 15 sons and 20 servants. Those farmers back then had a lot of sons, didn't they? Marilyn's gone. I had something to ask her. Farming families had a lot of kids. I remember my stepfather, Dusty, his father had 12 or 13 children. And he farmed 2 sections of land in Oklahoma with livestock, not tractors. Livestock. And I mean to tell you what, those kids were out there before daylight and after dark every day farming. Lots of work. Farming a lot of land like that. And servants. Verse number 11 now. Steve, are you over there on verse number 11? 9 and verse 11.
Then Ziba said to the king, according to all that my lord the king has commanded his servant, so will your servant do. As for Mephibosheth, said the king, he shall eat at my table like one of the king's sons.
All right, just like one of my own children. But by grace. This is how we see by grace. It says in Galatians, the 4th chapter, at the right time God sent forth his Son, made of a woman, made under the law, that he might transform us from slaves to heirs. From slaves to heirs. The word heir is wheels, heirs. In Greek there are a lot of words for son or heir or whatever. But now, this is an illustration of the grace of God. let's go back here and look at this. We've got a lot of things written up here on the blackboard. All right. Here is the word. Right there. Wheels. I don't know how to do it. Something like that in English. Now there's a word in Greek for a newborn child. A brand new born child is brachos. Okay? And then we have a live birth. Technos. Okay? See there, he's a Greek scholar. Yeah. All right. We have a brachos, and then we have a speechless baby. What is that one? What's that speechless baby?
Now my scholarly skills are.
That's the
All right. What's that one?
It's the shh baby.
Napio. A speechless baby, that's a napio. All right. And the live birth is a techno. All right, or techno. And then we have a heir. The heir can be the napios, the brachos, or whatever. But he's the heir. Now he says here in Galatians 4, someone turn to Galatians 4. Galatians 4th chapter, verse, I think it's
What verse?
Galatians 4, and read from verse 3 on, and I'll tell you when to stop. Verse 4 and verse 3. Anybody there?
I'm there.
Okay.
Okay, 4 verse 3. Even so, when we were children, we were in bondage under the elements of the world.
We were children of bondage,
Yes.
sons of the slaves. We were sons of slaves.
But when the fullness of the time had come, God sent forth His Son, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons.
All right. Now he says, Marilyn, it says, you're louder than him over here. You got to be quiet. Read that again so we can get that on the tape.
From 3. Even so we, when we were children, were in bondage under the elements of the world. But when the fullness of the time had
We
come...
were bondage as slaves' children. A slave's child has no home, does he? He's going to be a slave too, okay?
But when the fullness of the time had come, God sent forth His Son...
That's the word huios, His Son. Huios is the only begotten God. All right?
born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive the adoption as sons.
As the adoption, huiothesia is the word, placing as sons. He placed us as sons. He adopted us. He placed us as an heir. As an heir. We are heirs of the King, not servants. So he turns Mephibosheth in from a beggar to a king's son by grace. From a beggar to a king's son. All right. Now let's look and read that. Read that again. Verse, Brother Steve there, verse number 11. Now you'll understand this better when you read it this time, guys.
Second sentence.
Yeah. Go ahead and read that, Steve.
11.
11. Verse 11 again.
Then Ziba said to the king, according to all that my lord the king has commanded his servant, so will the servant do. This is the same, right? Just
Yes,
read 11.
the same verse.
As for Mephibosheth, said the king, he shall eat at my table like one of the king's sons.
Heirs. He's an heir of the king.
So it's like us.
By grace.
Like
By
the
grace,
people
we are heirs of the king. We have turned from servants of sin, slaves to sin, to heirs of the king. Isn't that beautiful? Just like today. And verse number 12. Read that again. Read that one, Steve.
Mephibosheth had a son whose name was Micah, and all who dwelt in the house of Ziba were servants of Mephibosheth.
So now we have an heir. Micah, who is like. That's what Micah means. Who is like. Lived in the house of Ziba with servants to Mephibosheth. So Mephibosheth lived in Jerusalem, for he ate at the king's table regularly. Now he was lame in both his feet. Even though we are crippled in sin, and we are made beggars, we are heirs of the king. Isn't that beautiful? even though we are crippled in sin. You know, today, how many are you getting any older?
I mean,
Not you.
I defy
You're
age.
still going up. You defy age. All right? Wait about 25, 30 years.
Yeah. You see me coming with a cane, you'll know,
Yeah.
With 3 teeth in one in my pocket,
Yeah. Just to keep on going, you'll have to
I
have,
hope not.
30 or 40 years, it makes a lot of difference. We have a sentence of death in us, don't we? We all have a sentence of death. Simple as that. We're all dying. Even a child, when it's born into this world, it's born to die. Okay? Jesus Christ, when he was born into this world, says back in Genesis, well, I went back when we studied this in the book of Galatians the other day, we went back to Genesis 3:15, and we're going to find out who the seed of the woman was. And Genesis 3:15 is the first promise of the Messiah in the Bible. The seed of the woman. The book of Enoch, the book, the lost book, so on, whatever, that was the most prolific book that they copied there at the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Essenes, the Qumranian cave, was the book of Enoch. The book of Enoch calls Jesus, the Messiah, what? What did Enoch call Jesus? The what? The seed of the woman. The son of woman. All right? Jesus did not have... Now, the book of Daniel calls the one they saw walking in the furnace a son of God. A son of man or a son of God. That's what it meant. It's someone that looks like man, but he's God. He's deity. And that's what Jesus was. He looked like man, but he was deity. Now, I've said this a million times, but the woman contributes no blood to the child. This is a medical absolute fact. The woman contributes no blood to a child. When it's in her womb, there is none.
Actually, people listening, I want to make sure I understand this. So, the type of blood, though, we always talk about the type.
No,
That-
we're
that's
not
nothing-
talking about type.
No, right.
We're talking about blood, literal.
Okay.
Because it's filtered through the
Life is in the what?
In the blood.
In the blood. All right? What's in the blood also? After it was contaminated, after Adam's blood was contaminated,
Sin.
there is life in the blood, but there's death, the sentence of death in the blood, the contamination of blood. But Jesus did not have an earthly father.
So
His father was God. Now, he attained a human form through Mary, but not the human infected, contaminated blood. That's deity. His blood was deity and pure and perfect and without sin. Every time a woman has a child, she does not pass on the sin nature to that child.
That's why it says
The Father does.
That's why it says the sins of the father
Yes.
will be visited in Genesis.
Yes, the sins of the father. The sin nature is passed on by the man, not the woman. The son of woman. God sent forth his wheels, his heir, made of a woman, made under the law, to be conformed to be the kinsman redeemer, but without sin. So he could redeem those that were sold out in sin. We were helpless. We are helpless like Mephibosheth was. Helpless in sin. The only thing we can ask for is mercy. That's all we can ask for is mercy. All right. That's it, Bill.
You know, I might point out that when God created Adam and Eve, the blood was perfect. And it took us thousands of years to get to the point where we started getting diseases. And now, don't marry relatives. Back in them days, they married cousins, sisters, whatever. But the blood that was originally there, like God did everything else, was exactly perfect.
It was perfect.
It took us thousands of years to dilute it to this point.
If you see, I don't know, if you're getting off track, I'm going to turn you loose here. But we studied the 6th chapter of Genesis where the Nephilim were on the earth. According to the book of Enoch, the Nephilim was blood drinkers. They were vampires, so to speak. The Nephilim thrived on blood. They ate. And by the way, this is before God gave animals flesh to even mankind to eat, and they were out eating animals. And they were not only eating animals, but they were killing people and eating them too. They were cannibals. Bad people, bad bunch, and God destroyed them from the face of the earth. These Nephilim. fallen ones, is what it says. Well, thank you for being here in our class today. We hope you come back again. And Ron, it's good to have you in the class.
Thank you.
Good to have you here. Over the years, Ron has come in and visited our class at different times. I think you were in my Greek class. I've been teaching Greek
Back
here
when you were
for.
across the street.
Well, there's no telling when I taught every building in this whole place, even across over the Little Red Schoolhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is in
All
the
right.
90s.
All right, Brother David, what do you have here? Thank you for enduring those hard seats. Hope God bless you with your work, His word today.
Okay, on our prayer list today, SB would like us to pray for